New doesn't always mean better, especially when it comes to new homes. Because what looks like a great deal on paper can end up costing you more in the long run, especially if you don't know what to look for. And in this video, I'll break down the biggest things to look out for when buying new construction, like hidden fees, upgrade traps, and what builders may not tell you up front. And make sure to stick around to the end because I'm going to tell you the #1 mistake that buyers make when purchasing a new construction home. Hello and welcome. My name is Mike. I'm a local realtor here in the Greater Toronto area. My goal on this video and on this channel is to help buyers, sellers, and investors make smarter real estate moves. So let's get started with the first thing that you need to watch out for when buying a new construction home. So you walk into the model home and it's absolutely gorgeous. The problem is that that model that you're seeing probably has $100,000 or more in terms of upgrades. You may not get those same counters. You're definitely not going to get those light fixtures. You may have hardwood throughout, and in the base model package, there's only carpet upstairs. There are going to be a lot of things that are going to differ in terms of the upgrades that you see on a model home versus what's available in the base package. And if you want to get all of those upgrades, well, it's going to be, like I said, $100,000 or more is quite common. So up that price right away, coming in at the low 700s. In reality, what you're seeing is probably starting in the low 800s once you have upgrades included. And the other thing about upgrades is that you're locked into the builder's supplier. You can't bring in your own. And oftentimes those upgrades from those suppliers are marked up quite heavily. And selections happen fast and early. You not only have a limited supply of what you can choose, but they happen very early on in the process. And once you pick, that's it, you're locked into it. When it comes to new construction homes and how it differs from resale, for example, you definitely have less negotiating power. Often with builders, there's actually no room for negotiation or very little wiggle room at all. Even in slow markets, builders will often hold their prices the same because it affects future sales. And if you're getting offered incentives, it may not always offer the best value. For example, maybe you get a free air conditioner or a free appliance package, but in the end, once you move in, you realize that this is not exactly the package that you wanted anyways. Lot premiums can be quietly inflated. Corner lots or walkouts or ones with larger backyards will come at a higher cost, and those are often fixed with little to no negotiating room. And finally, you're dealing with the builder's sales rep. Their job is to protect the builder, not your interests, and not help you find any savings. Oftentimes, builders do not cooperate with real estate agents, so you're left to your own accord to try and negotiate a large purchase like this with no one looking out for your interests. A big problem with new construction homes is the potential for long construction delays and wait times. A spring of next year closing, especially in the early phases, could easily turn into fall or winter or beyond that. And if you currently own a home and you are trying to time exactly when to sell that property, you could easily get a notice of delay, and all of a sudden you're stuck either carrying two homes, you have to get a short-term rental, or God forbid, you have to move in with the in-laws or your parents, which is not always the most ideal scenario. And delays are very common. They happen all the time. It's actually much more common to have a delay than to have a project finish on time. So trying to get that timing down is very difficult. And these delays can come in waves. You may have a delay after the framing, or there may be something like a plumbing strike, a union strike that happens that extends that delay even further. There are a lot of things that are out of your control in terms of construction and timing when you buy a new construction home. Just a really quick break here. If you're finding value in this video, please just hit the like button below. It helps others to find content like this. Okay, that's it. Let's get right back to it. Another issue with buying a new construction home has to do with hidden fees and closing costs. Now, these are not necessarily hidden in the traditional sense of the word, but for the average person, it's very difficult for them to understand exactly what these fees are. And if they're not reviewed by a pre-construction lawyer that really understands what these fees are, they can be a huge surprise at closing. So you have something, for example, called development fees, development charges. This is the largest fee that you're going to see at closing outside of a land transfer tax. This is something that is often uncapped, which means that whatever the price is, let's say the development charges end up being $20,000 by the time you actually close on the property. If they're uncapped, then you're paying that full $20,000. You need to have development charges capped within your agreement at $5,000 or $10,000, for example. Then even if the development charges are $20,000, you only pay whatever is agreed to in that agreement. This is often not seen by buyers because they don't have anyone helping them with the agreement, and it becomes a huge surprise at closing. And if you are an investor, you're not purchasing this new construction home as your primary residence, then you will be liable to pay the HST on closing. This is going to go up to about $24,000 in costs. Now, you can get a rebate on this when you rent out the property, agree to a 1-year term. You can then apply for a rebate. However, you need to have that money up front. And when closing comes and all of a sudden the bill is an extra $24,000 and you don't have that cash because no one has explained this process to you, because you do not have anyone representing your interests, it becomes very difficult to close. And if it becomes very difficult to close, you can run into a lot more far serious situations. And one of the biggest issues when it comes to buying a new construction home, and this has happened to myself and to clients as well, is that new does not always mean the best quality. There are going to be issues even in new homes. I've seen inspection reports and done inspections of new homes that were honestly worse than 50 to 100-year-old homes. So when you get your keys, when it's time for closing, then you need to do a home inspection. You need to uncover those deficiencies. You need to be your own advocate because builder quality differs from builders, all over the place. There can be great builders with great quality, but oftentimes you'll run into less perfect builders that are not going to have very high quality. So the expectation needs to be that new construction doesn't mean that it's perfect and doesn't mean that there will be no issues. And thank you for sticking around until the end of the video, because this point is absolutely the most important. The number one mistake that buyers make when purchasing a new construction home is not doing enough research on the builder. There is risk when you buy a new construction home that this project will not be completed. That often happens with smaller, more inexperienced builders who have less financial backing. That means that your deposits, and these can be a large amount of deposits, hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially, are held up. In construction delays or worse, they lead to a canceled project. And then, yes, your money does get returned, but you've been out of the market for several years, and by that time, you could potentially be priced out. So if you're going to buy a new construction home, then make sure you do so with a reputable builder with a good long track record. Are you considering buying a new construction home, or have you bought one recently? I would love to hear your thoughts and experiences, so please drop them in the comments. And before you go, please hit like, subscribe, and reach out to me if you have any questions about this process at all.